Mr. Brian Blakely, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Joey. How are you?
Brian, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I want to know this first before we get into anything. What's a place where you think everybody's watching you, but really nobody cares?
Okay. I guess that's kind of my deal. I don't know why anybody would really be concerned with what I'm doing or you know, like I catch myself maybe not posting to social media much or anything like that. I just don't know why anybody would really be that concerned with what I'm doing. Maybe I feel like I'm not that interesting. So I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. I guess I would hope that people like in my community or like my friends would be concerned, but I know that they're busy and they have their own lives. So I don't know. I wonder why people would be interested in what I'm doing from day to day, and maybe that's just the kind of old school mentality that I've got. But I don't know if I'm that interesting.
Well, that's a definitely very thoughtful answer. Mine's very simple, and it's the airplane. If I'm sitting in an airplane, I feel like I'm just on full display here, and I feel like everybody's watching what I'm doing on my phone, and really they just don't care. But I feel very exposed, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But yours is definitely a better answer. Brian, I guess the next question is moving this over to the world of insurance. Is there anything that you are maybe hyper aware of in like your conversations with clients or just your day to day actions that they don't care about maybe as much, and we maybe put too much emphasis on something that ultimately the end client could care very little about?
I think right now, especially this year, in the insurance world, when it comes to, especially on the personal side, but also on the commercial side, when it comes to rate increases, why rates are going up, what changes are being made, things like that. When I sit down with people and actually kind of go through, okay, here's why we're seeing rate increases. Your home insurance is going up as far as what it's covered for and things like that. Here's the reasons that we're doing that, or here's the reason why the companies are doing that, and even giving them kind of a peek behind the curtain as far as, okay, here's how insurance companies they plan for so many claims, but then here's what they do with the rest of that money. But there's unforeseen things as far as like construction costs and things like that. And I bring that up because it feels like I'm having that conversation multiple times per day, even to people that aren't clients, but just in casual conversation. And it just kind of, people don't care about stuff like that. It also seems like I'll get people that'll come into my office and they'll either be a little bit desensitized to the rate increases because they've seen it at the gas pump, they've seen it at the grocery store, they've seen it everywhere else. But the flip side of that is people come into my office and they're mad. And this is the last straw. Like they're sick of paying everywhere else. They don't understand why their car's getting older and they're paying more for insurance. To get back to your original question, I think there's a lot about insurance that people, they just have better things going on in their lives or things that they just don't care. As long as it's there when they need it, they don't care. And there's so much that we can educate people about. And that's really what I've tried to do is just kind of give people, okay, here's why. Here's why you're seeing a rate increase. And it may not make you happy, but at least you have a better understanding of here's the reason that you're seeing this rate increase. And here's what we may be able to do or maybe can't do and all that stuff. So I think that there's a lot when it comes to insurance that people make sure I'm covered. But other than that, I've got other busyness in my life. So it's been a good year just kind of having conversations and I don't know how much people retain of that stuff, but it seems like when I sit down and have conversations with people lately, they're like, okay, I get that. That makes sense. I can move on with my life.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up. Like it is, I guess, nice in a way that the rest of the world has caught up and taken some of the heat off of insurance in terms of annual price increases. I never
Yep.
thought about that way until you mentioned it. But do you find a level of, I guess, maybe appreciation for at least pulling back that curtain a little bit? Because it is, again, it's something they may have never considered. And I mean, does it at least provide a little bit of comfort or sanity to the whole thing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the reaction that I get from people is again, they still may not be happy about it, but I think they appreciate kind of knowing, okay, well, they're not just spending all of my money on commercials. They're not just paying the CEOs big bonuses or things like that at the carriers. Here's what they're using my insurance money for. And, when you tell people, look, the industry as a whole last year paid out more in claims than they received in premiums. And so that's not sustainable. And when you tell people, they understand that insurance is not a non-for-profit business. Like they've got to make money so that they can pay the claims. And people may not like it, but they understand that if we don't have insurance, that's the thing that keeps us when disasters come. That's the thing that keeps us from turning into a third world country. That's what rebuilds communities and rebuilds homes and gets people whole. So I think the other part of it is when you sit down and talk to mortgage brokers and realtors and kind of give them an idea of, okay, here's where things are on the insurance side, and kind of give them an idea so that when they're sitting down with clients and they're trying to come up with their numbers, or they're trying to give them expectations as far as, okay, here's what you may see from the insurance side. They're busy enough, realtors and mortgage brokers, trying to get business closed. But if you can give them a little bit of information to go back with and be like, hey, here's kind of what we're seeing on our end, it may help you on your end and kind of give you an idea where we're coming from. I think having your referral partners a little bit more educated as well, it's been a benefit for us.
So continuing on that line of the conversation, what's taking me inside the conversations you're having with maybe new business, guys that you're talking to for the first time that you haven't experienced. Like what's the conversation like there as you reach out to those folks, and what's their level of maybe understanding or frustration with the market, and how are you sort of navigating that?
I just had this question at the end of the day yesterday with someone we were working on quotes with, and she had gotten some other quotes. I think she'd gotten some online, and she talked to other agents, and she goes, it just seems like it's a lot of money. And so, we kind of talked with her about, and I told her, I was just honest. I said, look, you're buying a house and getting it insured at a very weird time in the insurance industry. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. And so, but kind of going through, it's like, okay, we're insuring your house for X amount of dollars. Let's say it's $300,000. Well, it's not just a house. We've got personal property. There's liability coverage that goes in there. We pay if you can't live in your house for a period of time. So I understand why you think X amount of money is a lot. And compared to what it maybe would have been last year or 2 years ago, it is. But here's what you're getting with that premium. And also kind of telling them, look, there's some companies that we can't even get quotes with through our system. We've got to send in pictures along with a list of 5 or 7 different things, even get a number on a quote, which is, unheard of. And I'm no different than any other agent across the country. They're frustrated with the extra steps that you have to take, or not even be able to get a quote back. But I think being as honest with them as you can, but also, there's certain things that they care about and certain things that they don't. Just kind of giving them, hey, we're going to be able to get you into this house. We're going to be able to get you covered correctly. Hopefully, I'm not saying it's going to be next year. Maybe it's 2 or 3 years down the road when the market corrects a little bit. We take a look again and we try to find something that's more affordable. And we tell people this is the best that I can do. I'm not saying I'm the only game in town, but this is the best that I can do. And here's what we can provide for you as well.
So now maybe take me inside the agency a little bit. Have you had to make any adjustments in just the way that you guys are doing business? Like what's new, what's on the table? Like how have you sort of been operating in that environment? And do you have anything fun or interesting up your sleeve?
As far as what we've done when it comes to reviews and things like that this year, we switched over to Better Agency as far as our rater about 1.5 years ago. And when the writing was on the wall, the end of last year, beginning of this year, as far as the rate increases and what things were going to look like, one thing that we did was set up some automation so that when clients were taking a certain percentage of a rate increase, they got an email that went out to them that was sent out through Better Agency. It had a link to my calendar so they could schedule an appointment and simply come in and talk about what was going on. And we've had a really good reception from that. The email it makes it sound like that their rate's going up about 300% when that's usually not the case. It seems like since COVID, people haven't been as willing or as eager to come in and just sit down and do a policy review and kind of go over that stuff. So that's been good for us. One thing that we've implemented where I don't have to make those phone calls every single day. There's emails and text messages that go out to them if they're interested in scheduling an appointment. So that's one thing that's been really handy for us. And implemented some other technology things, not anything too crazy, just, links, like a simple jot form link that we can send out to folks that maybe work second or third shift or, work during the day and can't get out to us. So we send out a link. It's very basic information that we can take their information and start running a quote where we're getting a lot more people want to communicate via text message. They don't want to talk on the phone, and they really want to do things when it works for them. And so we've implemented Glovebox for our mobile app. We're really trying to be an agency where if you want to come in and talk to us, you can. If you don't want to have a conversation over the phone, but you still want to communicate with us in other ways, we're trying to be on both ends of the spectrum and meet people in the middle where they want.
Yeah, the idea of doing it when they're available, I think, is something that has sort of escaped us maybe longer than it probably should have, and it's catching up maybe a little bit. That's personal theory,
Yeah.
but do you think that there's even more opportunity to push in that direction going forward? Like we're still not even quite to where the customer maybe might expect or is the most convenient?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that, and even I look at the agency And some of it is just having the time to sit down and really do that. But I know that there's more that we can do in the renewal process. There's more that we can do to make it easier. There's almost a conversation before the conversation as far as having them let us know, do they need to maybe add something on a personal articles policy? Have they finished square footage that maybe they didn't even think to talk about or tell us about? We can make it easier when we have the actual conversation. And that's just one example of things that we can do to make it easier. I think the insurance industry is getting better. I think that realizing that InsurTech and things like that aren't there to hurt us, but if you utilize them the right way and pick what's right for your agency. The other danger, I think, with InsurTech, and the thing that I really try not to be, and the other thing is get your team involved if they like it, if they don't. You've probably got some team members that they don't want one more thing that they have to put info in or that they have to learn about or whatever it may be. So making sure that the technology that you have, that you use it. But yeah, I think that there's only ways for us to get better. There's a lot of things that I want to do in my agency that I haven't done yet. Because I just don't want to overwhelm either myself or team members or whatever. But if you can find the right mix, I think we're at a time where we can do a lot of great stuff. We can meet the customer's needs and really meet them where they want to be and make the experience better. Because really sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but the companies that I work with aren't necessarily different with the other independent agents that are here in town. And the product that we sell is home and auto insurance. And when you get down to it, if the house or the car is covered when it needs to be, that's what the insurance is there for. But the thing that every agency has to do is we have to sell the experience. Nobody wants to necessarily buy our product, but we've got to do what we can to make that experience for both our clients, our referral partners, and even our team members as easy as possible.
I don't know if you'll have an answer to this question, and it might be just ridiculously unfair, but when you got into the business, how was your expectation? Did you have any expectations as to where you'd be, to your point in your career now? Like, do you think like you've sort of got to a point that you thought you might be, or did you have an expectation that you haven't quite fully got to yet, thinking back however many years when you first, sold your first policy?
So I've wrestled with that. It's funny that you asked that. I've wrestled with that probably the last 8 to 10 months. I'm not where I want to be. And I was hoping this year would be the time where I could kind of get where I wanted to be. And just with kind of the market changes and things like that, my time has really been focused on the service side of it. We had an agent that started with us at the beginning of the year and it just didn't work out on either side. And so I kind of had to take back some of the responsibility that I was looking to push off. But look, no, I'm not where I want to be. My book size is not where I want to be. From an income standpoint, I'm not where I want to be. But at the same time, I'm just, coming in every day, doing the best that I can. And I know that there's going to have to be some extra time that I've got to spend when it comes to processes and procedures. I've got to make things better from a technology standpoint. And I've also got to make things easier for my team members, the CSR that I have now, and even the virtual assistant that we're using. There's a lot of things when you're the agency owner that you have to get better at. And there's tough lessons that I've learned along the way, but we'll get to where we want to be. But I've realized a lot, and it's bothered me the last 10 months. I'm not where I want to be.
Well, don't beat yourself up too bad, Brian. I mean, I guess I was even curious of just your experience and expectation in the industry itself too. Like, how have you felt about that? Like, do you think the industry has gotten to a place where you maybe thought it would, and I guess maybe your place in it, so maybe go ahead and throw a little blame back on insurance in general if you want. I don't need you to deflect at all, but I mean, is there anything that has maybe not gotten to where you thought it might be just when you first started?
No, I don't know about that. My experience as an independent agent has been really good. I've worked for a captive agency before, and so I kind of know that side of it too, as far as being hamstrung with just one company. I think that there's things from a customer service standpoint, from a claim standpoint with the industry where the communication could be a lot better, especially when it comes to claims. I wish that I could know where things are at in the claims process. I don't need to know all the detail, but it would be nice to know, even just on a weekly basis, to get a report from the carriers. Okay, here's where we're at on things. That would be really handy, because there's times where I get a call from a client and they're fired up and I have no idea what's going on, and I've got to get in the middle of it and settle everybody down, where it'd be nice to know some of that stuff up front. If we're going to be able to give our clients the best experience possible, we got to keep up that way. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
There is no wrong answer, Brian. There is no wrong
right.
answer. I wanted to go back real quick to, we're talking about sort of the conversations you're having inside the agency, but I did want to ask about conversations you're having outside of the agency in terms of the podcast that you're doing. You're talking to local folks in your community. I'm always impressed. I see it all the time. Just how's that going? What's your experience been, and what have you gotten from that over the? It's been what I would say several years now, 3-4 years maybe.
It'll be 3 years next month. So I started in September of 2020. It's been a great experience for me. What it is, it's a small business podcast where I interview small business owners in the state of Nebraska. Instead of doing Zoom calls or things like that, I'll travel to the business where we're setting up the interview in their shop. For someone that maybe works from home, we set up in their office or whatever it may be. But it's actually sitting there having that personal, face-to-face conversation about their business. And, I'm part of a networking group, and there's a lot of good conversations that happen there. But there's a lot of good conversations that happen outside of that group when we're leaving or whatever it may be, and things that I learn about them for their business. And so all small business owners, I think, go through the excitement, the fear, the anxiety of just getting the thing off the ground, of trying to make enough money to keep the doors open. But then as you work through that process, working with employees, paying employees, adding new products, those types of things. And so there's so many great stories. And I've had a lot of people that have emailed me from different states and different towns and want to be on the podcast. And I haven't done that because I want to keep it local. I want to keep it in Nebraska because there's so many, podcasts are getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time as far as the market being more saturated. I really just want to focus on Nebraska. The other thing that it has done, that was not the reason that I got started in the first place, but the other thing that it's done for me is it's given me an opportunity. I've gotten some business from it. You sit down and you have an hour-long conversation with someone about their business. They're more willing to sit down with you and say, okay, I'll let you take a look at this, instead of just a cold call where you're walking in or calling them or whatever it may be. But it's also given me an opportunity where if I want to look at a certain market, from the commercial side of it, and I just want to say, hey, can I just get a copy of your deck pages? I want to see if I've got companies in Nebraska, in my market, where I can go out, and I just want to see what's available out there and what hangups there may be. If they're not into, buildings that are older, if they've got, I don't know, whatever may be, those different types of things. But if I've already had a conversation with them, they're more willing to say, yeah, sure, you can take a look at it. Just gives me an opportunity to get my foot in the door with either some of these carriers, or maybe I can come back to them with a quote and be like, here's what I came back with. I'm not going to, hound you all day about it, but it looks like we may be able to help you out. So that's not why I started it, but it's been a really good lead generator and able to help me figure out kind of what markets I've got that I can use to my advantage.
All right, Brian, I got 3 more questions for you, sir.
Okay.
And the first one is, what's one thing you hope you never forget?
Wow. Coming with the hard hitters. I hope I never forget how hard it was to get started in this industry, but how rewarding it is to keep going. I've actually had to start over twice. Before I was with a captive company, it didn't work out, so I started over as an independent. And it makes me tired just to think about having to start all over from scratch again. But where it's gotten me now, I hope I never forget just that process. And for, I guess, the other part of it too, there was a time where I didn't know if I was going to do this. I thought maybe I was going to go do something else because it was really hard and it was stressful. But just doing the hard stuff, I guess.
All right. Now, on the other side of that, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
I think I'm a pretty good insurance agent. I don't think I'm a great leader. And so I've still got a long way to go when it comes to being a leader. I'm getting there. But as far as things like delegating, things like putting processes and procedures in place, things like just being aware of your team members and their emotions and where they're at, even from day to day, as far as how things are going for them, not just getting wrapped up in the business, but taking a step back and realizing that, you need to take care of your people. Sometimes I'm not the best at that. So I need to get to be a better leader.
All right, Brian, last question to you, sir. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up, really any part of insurance, what's that thing? Where is it going? And what's it doing?
I wish that there was a way we could make, from a technology standpoint, that we can make things universal. And I mean that by the downloads that come through, just the way that we do things, especially as an independent agent, where I've got to learn so many different things because of the carriers that I represent. If there's one way that I can make it universal, but still let those companies be, have their specifics and have them be different, that would be the thing that I would change. A way where we didn't have to worry about double entry, where we didn't have to worry about all the things that we have to learn, and just a way to make it easier where things are more universal. Because that's the one thing being an independent agent. If you come from the captive side or you come from another industry, there's so much to learn, especially when you first get started. I think it can be overwhelming for some folks that just aren't ready for it. So making it a little bit more universal, making it a little bit more one way, I guess, would be the thing that I would change.
Brian, this has been fantastic. So I'm going to leave it right there.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Joey.